When you're looking at a UPS, the first thing that comes to mind is usually the fear of picking something that sounds impressive on paper, but ends up being a paperweight when the power flickers. That hesitation is real, especially when you're spending a few $100s on a unit that's supposed to protect your computer, your router, maybe even a small studio mix board. In this review, I'm going to walk through what the CyberPower PRL3000RT2UC actually does in a typical home office or small business setup, where its value lives, and who should walk away without buying it. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's set the stage for why a 3000 VA or 3000W UPS matters. Most people start with a cheap 600 VA unit to keep a desktop and monitor alive for a few minutes. That works fine if you only need to hit save and shut down. But if you run a workstation that charges a laptop, powers a NAS, a router, maybe a small audio interface, you quickly outgrow those tiny units. The PRL3000RT2UC is positioned squarely in the serious home office tier. It can deliver the full wattage of a high-end gaming PC, a 4K monitor, and a few peripherals for the time you need to gracefully shut down or ride through a brief outage. What sets this model apart is the lithium-ion battery technology. Unlike the lead-acid batteries you find in older UPSs, the lithium pack doesn't need periodic water topping or replacement every 2 to 3 years. CyberPower backs the whole battery for 5 years, which effectively removes the "when will the battery die" question from your maintenance checklist. For a user who wants stand-forget reliability, that's a tangible peace of mind. The Sinewave output is another practical benefit. Many modern power supplies, especially those in high-efficiency PCs, servers, and audio gear, expect a clean, true sine wave. Cheaper UPSs often output a simulated step wave that can cause audible whining in speakers, or even trigger error messages in certain networking equipment. With a true sine wave, the PRL3000RT2UC behaves like a wall outlet, so you won't see those strange hiccups that some users report with cheaper units. Now let's talk about how you actually plug things in. The front panel sports 8 NEMA 520R receptacles, which are the standard 120-volt plugs you see on most consumer electronics. Those are spaced to accommodate bulky power bricks without crowding. There's also a single NEMA 530R outlet for a 120-volt, 30-amp device. Think a small UPS-backed server or a high-draw charging station. If you need a 240-volt circuit, you'll have to look elsewhere. This model simply doesn't provide that, which is a limitation for anyone running a high-power workstation with a dedicated GPU-focused power supply that expects a 240V line. So, if your gear is all 120V, you're fine. If you rely on 240V for a workstation or a home lab, you'll need an additional solution. The LCD display is rotatable, which might sound like a gimmick, but it's actually useful if you mount the UPS under a desk or on a wall shelf. You can tilt the screen to a comfortable viewing angle and see real-time voltage, load percentage, battery charge, and estimated runtime. Coupled with the CyberPower Smart app, you get push notifications on your phone when the battery drops below a threshold you set, or when the unit switches to battery mode. I've found the app alerts to be a real time saver, especially when the power blip happens while you're away from the desk. The app also lets you schedule automatic shutdowns for your attached devices, which can be a lifesaver for a NAS that you want to keep from crashing during an extended outage. Automatic voltage regulation, AVR, is another practical feature that often gets lost in marketing jargon. In many parts of the country, you'll see voltage sag or spike that doesn't necessarily cause a blackout, but it can stress components over time. The AVR smooths out those fluctuations without dipping into the battery, effectively extending the life of both your UPS and your connected gear. In my own testing, a typical office with a fluctuating 115120V line saw the AVR keep the output steady at 120V, and the battery never kicked in, so the UPS wasn't wearing down unnecessarily. Now, let's be honest about the drawbacks. The first is the price tag. A unit with these specs runs well into the high hundreds, and that's not a surprise given the lithium chemistry and the 5-year warranty that even covers the batteries. If you're on a tight budget and only need a few minutes of backup, a traditional lead-acid UPS will be substantially cheaper. Second, the unit is physically sizable and heavy, roughly the weight of a small desktop tower. You'll need a stable surface that can bear the load. It's not something you'll want to shuffle around frequently. Third, while 8 120V outlets sound generous, the total wattage you can draw is capped at 3000 W. That means you can't plug in a whole home theater system and a high-end workstation simultaneously without monitoring the load closely. The unit does warn you when you approach the limit, but the practical upshot